This is the first time I've been interviewed.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, we're just going to have a nice, easy chat because I'm all about just being chill, keeping it simple, just being honest. And I don't know what it was about the message that you sent me, or that I saw something, and something just hit me like this man seems to have a lot of knowledge about different things that seem like a little bit more on an academic level, but there's something very grounded about you as well, which is what we need right now.
Yes.
Because for all the academic, the academic snob, we're not recording by the way, of course,
Yes. Yes.
but for all the academic snobbery that exists, and those people need a fucking slap to get over themselves
Yeah.
and just keep it simple, right? KSS, keep it simple,
Yeah.
or in the manufacturing industry, right, the Six Sigma, they go, keep it simple, stupid,
Yeah.
KSS.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought it would be fun, and to bring another person onto my channel who there's so many beautiful people that watch my channel because of the amazing people I interview, and they're just some people get more than others, and I think that you would really add some value.
Okay. Okay. Can we talk for another minute? Let me talk for another minute.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying, but what you're doing is more important. Okay? You know family constellation stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a global constellation thing with digital. So we're taking the tools that the deep state's using and twisting them
Uh-huh.
to elevate consciousness. So, and I've got a bunch of things I could talk about. I'm into the deep state pretty seriously. MK Ultra, that sort of stuff, and also neuroscience, how it's used to manipulate people, and so my suggestion is I want to talk to you. That's because you're getting the information that your population needs, and my career has been in speech and language pathology, which is basically elevating consciousness, basically. So we could talk for a long time, but to get quality concepts across, your questions and me answering your questions where you're interested is where we'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm making notes because, like I said, this whole kind of broad spectrum that you're coming from,
Yeah.
of course I don't know, but how could I? I've seen a 5-minute glimpse of you. I'm
Yeah.
going with my intuition.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking.
Yeah.
I'm going with my gut. My gut is leading me
Yes.
to connect to you. And I trust it. I trust my gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
I trust my friends off planet very
Yeah.
deeply. I don't always listen to them. Sometimes I ignore them because I still have to be responsible for my own decisions here. And when I fuck up, they're not here to really pick up the pieces. I have to handle it, as we all do, unfortunately. And so, so that's where I wanted to go. Do you have a specific website we can drive people to?
www.spiritualmag.org.
Okay.
Spiritualmag.org. Fernando, I've been making documentaries of paranormal stuff because people don't believe it. I didn't believe it. So we have a 6-series show that's on Vimeo, and Fernando would like me to offer it to you to share. It's a free pass on it. It's $5, but it's a free pass to the end of March, and then he'll send that to you. That's what we were just doing.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, see, I don't know what you know about me, but also paranormal is me. Like paranormal angels, demons, and aliens, which is why I wrote my last book, because I've had experience of all of them. So we're talking the same language. Sometimes people they can't get to. Oh, how long do you have, by the way? Let me ask you that.
All the time in the world.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, sometimes people aren't able to get themselves to the ET, but they can get themselves to the ghost, the spirit, the demon. Some can even go
Yeah.
to the fairy.
Yeah,
You know, so as long as we're kind of feeding into the different layers of
Yeah.
reality that we're in, we're being of service to people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know. So we'll talk about your paranormal documentaries. Maybe we start with your spiritualmag.org, and then we can just open up and see what happens there, subject-wise. Unless
okay.
there's anything else that you would like me to focus on?
I would like you to focus on what you feel directed towards. Okay?
Okay.
Your spirit guides, etc., are pumping you with stuff right now, and my guardian angel Daisy's getting kind of serious about stuff. So since there's not a time frame, you could make 3 shows out of this if you need to.
Brilliant. Well, let's see. Okay. So I think you should record your end so you also have a copy of this, because my stuff is invaded all of the time. All of the time.
I'm afraid to touch it.
Zoom it.
I'm just
Are you?
I'm just recording my voice on my iPad.
Oh God. Okay. Well, at least you've got something then of us speaking to each other.
Yeah.
Because the last I did with Tony Rodriguez, Secret
Yeah.
Space Program.
Yeah.
And Karina Pataki, who's decoded the Bible.
Yeah.
And Melanie Charette and I sat watching the Zoom, convert, and then it simply disappeared, and that's not the first time. But luckily, I told Tony to take a recording, so I used his. But yeah, all right, we're going to be fine. We're going to ask him. I love Daisy.
Yes. Can I throw 2 more points at you here? If you had a chance to watch the show with Elena, at the end I talked about civilian core, and it's where civilians take an oath to participate with loving off-planet beings to elevate consciousness.
Right.
And so in terms of global constellation, you're the center. What you're doing in terms of communication. So I would like to say that what you're doing and people participating is elevating consciousness. So you're kind of responsible for a global constellation, because we're doing thoughts and we're doing it electrically. You follow me?
Yeah. I mean, we're all in this. We all
Oh, yeah.
have, I feel, equal
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
And it is our job to elevate into.
Okay.
But, if anyone tells me they're it, then I'm like, I'm sorry, bye. This is a collective, right? A collective. It's not about one person, and
No.
that just makes my butt clench. So we're all in this together.
Okay.
We are. All right, then I'm going to hit. So Sam, tell me, is it Sam Bell? BSC? Is there anything you say after your name in particular?
No.
I want to just do right.
Sam Bell.
Okay. And you're currently in Lima, Peru, yes?
Yes, in Miraflores. It's like the nicest area of Peru. Did you enjoy Peru, I take it?
I loved it. I mean, I saw a lot of the shitty areas
Yeah.
in Lima
Yeah.
that I didn't like. And there was a really off the wonk energy there
Yeah.
in that city that kind of like, oh my God, I was there with my, I can't say who, but in 2018, and I explored it a lot. But Cusco, oh my God, Cusco, I just felt like I was home, and Saskatchewan I went to, and it was just so beautiful. It was so nourishing to my soul. And then of course Machu Picchu, and getting the train, through past the Inca Trail.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, I did quite. It was wonderful. It was so wonderful, and stayed with me. Stayed with me as
No. Yeah.
like a love in like it
Yeah.
touched me in a way
Yeah.
that a lot of places
Yeah.
haven't.
Authentic.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. All right then.
Okay.
So we'll jump around. We'll
All right.
find our, and we'll just be who we be. And if you drop an F-bomb, I don't care. It's all good. All right.
Recording in progress.
Hi there, my name is Dani Henderson. Welcome back to my beautiful channel. A channel where we have all manner of conversation and discover and explore all manner of subjects that pertain to you, our beautiful, beautiful humanity. My guest today is the great, the one and only Sam Bell, currently broadcasting to us from Mila Flores in Lima, Peru. Hello, Sam Bell, how are you?
Excellent, Danny. From South America.
Indeed, indeed. It's great. I spent, as you know, some time in Costa Rica, so I think every person of a pale colour should give themselves some time in the South American sunshine, deal with the bugs and the everything that comes with that. What is your take on your current place that you live in Peru there?
It's kind of the elite area. It's like the Beverly Hills. It's where all the tourists go. So I'm from Silicon Valley originally. So, and I lived in New Zealand. So between those places, Miraflores, Lima, Peru is definitely the nicest.
Yeah, definitely, definitely beautiful. Thank you so much. New Zealand also, oh my gosh, that's on my list to go to. I want to go hang out with those big boys, those big Maoris and those Samoans, and amazing culture everywhere. And it's wonderful that you're here to share. So I wanted to get a bit into what you do and who you be. As well as other things, you're deep into speech and linguistic pathology, which ultimately elevates consciousness. I want to go there. Why did you get into that? And also mention your spiritualmag.org, your spiritual online magazine, please.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the
Well, first I got to say it's a big strategic pleasure to be able to communicate with you right now. My occupation for 40-something years was speech and language pathologist, licensed by the California Board of Medical Quality Assurance. And you don't use many tools in speech and language. So basically you're going into a room with somebody and working on their consciousness, elevating their consciousness. It could be a newborn who's having difficulty swallowing because they have a cleft palate, or it could be a geriatric individual who can't remember the food is in their mouth, or it could be a person with a regular speech articulation error, like the child growing up with ours. That would be speech. You use your lips, teeth, tongue, bite, chew, swallow. Language is a thought process. So that involves consciousness, as you know so well, and local consciousness within your cranium, and also non-local consciousness, the consciousness we all share, like you do. So
like we'll
yeah, that's what we're doing now. So you get paid well, but you got to go into a room and get people to change. So it's challenging, and in the process of doing it for 40 years, you learn how to shape people's behavior for looking and listening, and memory skills, tuning in and tuning out. So the conclusion is, after 42 years, it's like the world's not getting better. And I was taken under the wing of a world-famous psychic, Sylvia Celeste Brown. And while I was with her, a light came out of my chest, shape of a point within a circle. I went to the other side, 1996, September 21st, and received a blessing. I asked a bunch of stupid questions because I couldn't believe I was in heaven. And I received a blessing to communicate with my guardian angel, who I named Daisy. So I used to be normal. I had 3 offices, Santa Monica, Pasadena, Beverly Hills, 27 full-time speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and psychiatrists and psychologists. So I stopped working in hospitals, and I just started doing stuff with Daisy, my guardian angel. And So I've been doing that nonstop intensely, and that's why I'm here in Peru. Actually, my wife is from Cusco, Peru. And in 2017, a Peruvian journalist, Guillermo Gillespie, brought me to a place called Black Rock, and we called in a UFO from Orion. Amazing. You know the recent picture that Elena posted of her or painting when she was a young lady? With the stars? Well,
The orbs, yeah.
yeah, those little stars, they don't really have a specific shape. They're kind of like a, you know, the UFO, the disc, you can tell it's the disc, but those little stars have kind of a moving little shape. Well, that's what came in from Orion. And so when I went to heaven and got a blessing to work with my angel, everybody thought, Sam's lost it, he needs medication. So all my hunting buddies, my pig hunting buddies, Sam's lost it. So I was watching television one time and I saw a woman crying. And I was just clicking the clicker, and I went down again and she was crying and she said, please help me find my daughter. And her lip was quivering and my lip went like this, right? So I'm like, ooh, what's that? So I asked Daisy if I should help, and Daisy said yes, and that she was deceased, and she was underwater, and she was worried about her parents because they were so upset. So Daisy brought me down to the beach, underwater, under some rocks, to her shoes, the missing girl's shoes. And I contacted the Oakland homicide detective. They had just done a America's Most Wanted feature on her, and told him my guardian angel brought me to this woman's shoes, and he was incredibly respectful. It blew my mind. So he met me the next day, and he said, yeah, these are the girl's shoes, and I showed him where they were found. And of course, I video documented all this. And then they did a little blurb on me on America's Most Wanted, and then everybody started believing me. They didn't believe me when I was telling them face to face, but when they see it on the stupid TV, they believe it. I'm like, what the hell? Sam Charno's Angels. So I just started documenting everything right then and there. And I'm not really in the public eye. When I was working...
Sam, I just want...
Yes.
You made so many... I've made so many notes on just the first few things that you've said, and it's so big. It's such a massive landscape that you're laying out here. And like you said, you know, you start out as an academic, somebody who really cares about language and people, and laid out the different parameters of what that can look like. And you mentioned the babies born with the cleft lip, and again, just to cast our minds back to kind of human evolution in different parts of the world, there is a saying that, or a thought that a baby is born with cleft lip. They say that is the last part of the human body that is actually developed.
Yep.
And so often we find baby third world countries with a cleft lip situation because they've been born prematurely, malnourished, or fleeing war, and the adrenaline has caused them to go into labour. So that's something there to think about. And incredible that you could actually be effective in helping these children. Because not all of the children with cleft lip situations are going to get their lips, joined together. That was one thing I wanted to raise. But also, you mentioned the great Sylvia Brown.
Yes.
I mean, how can we continue without doing a little bit of a recce on her? And beautiful that you get connected to your Archangel Daisy. And like you said, at that point, everyone thinks, well, Sam Bell is completely loony. Because people have such a hard time, right? It's the program, though, isn't it? Obviously you're not mad. Obviously I'm not mad. There are angels, demons and aliens. There are people with sticks so far up their butts, stuck in academic snobbery. And what you clearly did with 3 different offices and a ton, over 20 speech pathologists, you collapsed all of that. People go, oh, it's stress, he's gone mad, he's seeing angels. Of course you were. Because you were open and you were doing the work. You were doing the true work. You were mapping through consciousness. You were making two energies collide. And that is part of the great work that you've done. And I want everyone to remember, don't forget to look up spiritualmag.org and look at some of the beautiful articles there, and that will take you on another, elevatory experience of Sam Bell here. But Sam, just going back a bit, tell us, how did you meet Sylvia Brown? And what was she like?
Well, it's kind of scary to talk about her because she's the real deal, man. Well, what happened was let me back up. What you just described, I agree with, but you make it sound like I knew what I was doing. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I'm just trying to help people. You know what I mean? I was born and raised a Catholic, so I'm like, I didn't know, no. Anyway, so, I was working in a subacute care, and a gentleman came in, and I made friends with him, and it was obvious that he wasn't going to last long. And he told me his daughter was a psychic. Well, I thought, what a bunch of bullshit. Why in the fuck would he tell me that? That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And it really pissed me off. I mean, I don't have a lot of time in the hospital. I make a point of going to this guy and bring him to his room, put him on the patio so he can smoke his pipe. Every day, it's hard when you go in these places. Anyway, so years later, I had a female adult cerebral palsy quadriplegic independent living situation, quad, lives by herself, got to have somebody come in and feed you and get you up and everything. And she was begging me to kill her because she was so horrible in a hospital. And I was like, I couldn't handle it. She's a personal friend. So I thought, well, I got to be mature about this and go talk to a psychologist or somebody again. Every couple of years, you got to talk to somebody about this crap. So I'm looking in the yellow pages, and I'm looking at psychologist, Sylvia Brown. That's that guy's daughter. I'll call. So I called. Michael answered the phone, and he said it was $200, and the waiting list was 3 years or something, and it was for a half hour, and I rudely slammed the phone down. I thought, I'm an idiot. Then the phone rang. This is 1996. They didn't have caller ID and stuff. The phone rang, and it was Michael. He said, Sylvia just came in, said you helped her father. She'll help you come in on Saturday. I thought, I showed up on Saturday feeling like a total fool. Absolutely like a fool. I'm an idiot. I mean, it's impossible, right? And the wall's covered with these letters, all these important people. And Michael comes out and he goes, Sylvia's ready for you. And I went, okay. So I walk her down the hall and she's standing there. She wore these comfortable, loose-fitting long gowns. And she puts her hand out and she says, I'm so glad you're here. You're a genetic offspring of blank. I'm not going to say it. And I thought, I'm an asshole. Fuck, I paid him and everything. I'm an idiot. I'm just an idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm sitting there like, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. So we walk in and she says, well, your sister Margaret died because she had to pee, she lost her glasses, and she was intoxicated, and she walked out in front of the truck. Well, we always wondered what happened to her, and I'm thinking, how did she know how did that, And so then she just started telling me stuff, and then I noticed her lips weren't moving. Now, for speech path, and you see somebody, and you don't even know that it's telepathic, it's kind of funny. It pissed me off. Because I work on these cerebral palsy. Having a conversation with a cerebral palsy person is not easy. Anyway, so right then everything changed. And at the end she said, I would like you to be a minister in training. And I said, what's a minister? It's like, is this like a junior? How much is it going to cost? She says she'll waive all fees. She'll train me. And a minister in training is a person that's getting ready to go to a big fight. I'm like, oh, okay. So everything changed. One day, Francine's a spirit guide, so it's like when you're seeing this stuff that's actually happened, you don't believe it, you know it. And one day, one of the ministers said she's going to channel Rahim, and I go, who's Rahim? They go, you got to stay. I go, I'm all burnt, I can't stay, I'm tired. They go, you got to stay. Okay, so I stayed. Rahim showed up, and she walked out. Normally she walks out, but this time she's kind of like, Mr. Clean, the guy that's on the soap bottles,
Yeah.
She looked like that. And she sat in a chair with her legs folded, like, like this. And she was a completely different person. They had a bunch of fans on her. And that evening, I asked some questions. I won't get into it. That evening, a light came out of my chest at 3 o'clock in the morning. And she told me ahead of time that it's going to happen. I think she said September 17th, but it didn't happen September. It happened September 21st. It was Rosh Hashanah. And I went and asked a whole bunch of ignorant questions because I couldn't believe I was in heaven. I couldn't believe any of the stuff made sense, but it actually made sense. And then I got a blessing to communicate with an angel to help people learn their spiritual lessons with the least amount of pain. So Sylvia loved me. She sent her husband in and told him to tell me that she was my mother in a past life. Well, she had Klingons, like, busloads of people would show up. And the people that were her ministers and archbishops, they didn't really like me showing up. And she'd go, come on, you can do whatever you want. She wanted me to be her security guard and go to New York with her. So everything changed. Everything changed. And from then on, I've just been doing guardian angels. I had a meditation center on Waiheke Island in New Zealand. I was a permanent resident there. And now I'm basically channel angels for free. People don't believe. In Peru, we're cool. But, most countries, well, Switzerland, they're cool. But United States is not, you know what I mean? So...
Well, back a bit here. Let's go back to, again, setting up the shop. So people that have heard of Sylvia Brown, who is one of the most prolific psychic mediums, clairvoyants on our planet in the last 100 years, I would say, who's since passed. She was a lot on American TV with, was it Montal?
Yeah, Montel Williams. Yeah.
I've forgotten his name.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, she would come off as quite a gruff, like, we're smoking our fag or whatever. I love that. I love ballsy, strong women. I don't care how you sound, I don't care how you look. I can feel your heart.
No.
And she was so rude and abrupt because she clearly had no time for the bullshittery that she'd been fighting all the time. So backing up, you told us about the man that you were taking out to smoke his pipe.
Yeah.
That man was her father.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. A sense was made, a connection was made when you called Michael, who was her husband.
Her secretary.
Okay,
her husband was Larry.
Right, I wanted to make sure, because I didn't know that either, hence the questions. And then she felt something, and then he called you back, and she pulled you in. So she felt the resonance when you called, which again, is not a difficult thing to do for those who are truly connected to spirit, to source, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So she gave you a reading, it was beautiful, and then you studied with her. Now, can you tell me, please, I wrote the name down, who is Rahim, and why did Sylvia have to adopt? Was she letting beings possess her body? Was she channeling the old-fashioned way? What was she, not to discredit her at all.
No, yeah.
But just to explain, we weren't there, so you were there. What happened?
Well, I set up the room with the chairs, and I put my name on the front row chairs, right? And then the place just filled up, and of course somebody took my name off, and then I'm at the very back. So she comes in, and it's like, whoa, check that out, because different, right? And the fans are on her, and she's got this air blowing on her, and she's a different personality. So I would assume that her heart stopped, this being entered in. And it was specifically so that the ministers could ask one question each. That was the purpose of the whole thing. This guy showed up. So I didn't know who he was. I was thinking it was like another, spirit guide or something. I'm clueless, right? So, and I'm a guy, I don't know. So when she came out and she was so powerful, they started at the front. When they finally got to me at the back, people were asking, does my car need, new transmission and is, what all personal stuff. They got to me and I said, my friends in New Zealand are upset because the president of France is detonating nuclear weapons off the coast of Tahiti. and it's causing earthquakes. Is there anything that can be done? And Rahim said, I'll send a messenger to the Great White Brotherhood. Now, I had no idea what that was. I never heard that term before. So then, after a bit, he was talking to somebody, and then he interrupted, said, the messengers just came back and said that the president of France wants to be reelected and show his power, and we can't violate his free will, and he's going to detonate a nuclear weapon off the coast of Tahiti, but it's supposed to cause some kind of volcanic activity in Auckland. Auckland's built on a volcano. But because you asked, the Great White Brotherhood is going to make earth crust adjustments and have underwater volcanoes go off, right? So I'm like, I'm kind of tired. It's like, about 11:30 at night. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. I'm, sitting in a chair, a folding chair, like, oh, okay, Well, sure enough, the guy let off a nuclear weapon, and a puff of hot steam and stuff came out of the volcano in Auckland, but nobody got injured. And that just kind of blew my mind. That just totally blew my mind. So all I know is he sent a messenger to the Great White Brotherhood. I don't know if he's a member of the Great White Brotherhood. I don't know. And that's the only time I ever interacted with that gentleman, that entity.
Right. Right. And who is Rahim supposed to be?
Sorry, sweetheart, I don't know.
Okay, I know there's just been so many of them over the years, the gurus and the, like Babaji and, all that kind
Yeah,
of thing. And Rahim is the one I haven't heard of, and so rather than just let that pass, because there'll be some people that might watch this that maybe studied Rahim's work or whatever. But, regardless, for me personally, especially in this day and age, it is extremely dangerous for anyone to channel any entity in their body. Because obviously if we look at the leaders that put themselves in those positions across our planet, so many of them are literally possessed with true, real demons, and they channel them, and they're owned by them, and they're possessed by them. And I remember years ago that, starting out, in a spiritual kind of seeking that most of us seem to do at some point or other, that there were still old-fashioned mediums that would create ectoplasm in seances, physical ectoplasm, which is dangerous. Dangerous. And I've met women over the years who've got really PC with me, because I'd sit in circle and be able to name things, say things, share things without effort, because if you have to use physical effort, you're really not connecting. We've elevated so much consciousness-wise and frequency-wise on our planet over these years. So I love that you're coming from that era where Sylvia Browne, who I read one of her books years ago, I was really drawn to her. And, I hope she was a feisty cow. Good for her, because that woman had to fight and struggle to be heard and to be kept taken seriously. And by the time I personally saw her, I was witnessing a woman who was so beyond caring what people thought. And that is a very strong position to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, as I mentioned, it's a little bit scary to talk about her, because she at the time was, in my opinion, was the most important person on the planet. And so when I see, Elena, I'm like, man, the stuff that's going to come down on her, bless her heart. So just so you know, every sunrise and sunset, Dani, Elena, and Dan Willis are big time enclosed in the white light every sunrise and sunset. About channeling, I don't consider myself a channel, but that's a term people kind of understand. I just consider myself a connection to the other side. That's what Sylvia said. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to channel now. It doesn't happen like that.
I just want to mention, you mentioned the name of Elena, just so those that don't know who you're talking about Elena Dani, who was brought to the planet, not by channeling, but by delivering information about galactic history. You've actually interviewed her before, so share your thoughts on Elena Dani as we're talking about great women on the earth at this time.
Well, let's put it in the context of consciousness. So I worked with consciousness for 40 years with people that are not normal, below normal, and above normal. So you've got Rain Man, and then you've got your deaf blind who are retarded. You follow me? You can have a deaf blind Rain Man too. But I'm saying I'm working with that outer fringe, but basically 90 to 110, I really didn't work with that much. So my experience is in elevating consciousness in the non-local zone and in the local zone for below normal and above normal. So consciousness can be perceived as, well, they're conscious or they're unconscious. It's like, you're in the pool or you're not in the pool. Well, consciousness is this ginormous continuum. So, as you know so well, consciousness continues before you were born and after you were born. It's, after you pass on. So this non-local consciousness and the consciousness of the individual is dependent on a lot of different factors. So someone like Elena Danan she's not channeling. It's part of her consciousness. Now, in the area of consciousness, you have, let's say, for example, your ears, okay? You can't turn your ears off. And you automatically tune out background sounds. You don't have to, it's not like your eyes, you have to stare at something. So in consciousness, you have to perceive things from your environment to construct thought forms in your brain, in your local consciousness. And those can resonate with the non-local consciousness, like morphic resonance kind of stuff. So Elena is incredibly dynamic and looks like a regular Earth person. I would label her an ultra-terrestrial. That's how I would label Elena Danan.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Frequency-wise, she's really quite fascinating, as you could probably imagine, having yourself worked in the fields of language and consciousness pathology and getting used to going in with non-verbal humans and feeling them rather than just listening to them. So it allows you to tune your fork, like in that way, in that consciousness way, and hence the work you've done and the understanding that you had. Very quick story. Elena and I in January were at the British Museum in London, and I was downstairs alone exploring the Egyptian beautiful iconography they have there in the megalithics, and she was off on her own sourcing Mesopotamia, being the archaeologist she is. She's brought so much information on Enki, which is the title we know for the being called Ea, and the ancient history that's recorded thousands and thousands of years ago. It didn't come out in 2020. It's already been there as part of the mapping of the culture and history of our whole planet, right? We know everything can be manipulated. We know there's so much bullshittery going on. So we're on our own because we're best friends and we understand each other, right? So I don't want her to bother me. She doesn't want me to bother her. So we split up and then we'll text in an hour or so, see where we're at. So anyway, I did the downstairs as she's doing her thing. And then I went up to Mesopotamia floor and I'm walking along and I feel something and I go to a cupboard or a glass cabinet I'm led to, and it was the Eridu Genesis, one of the ancient Sumerian tablets, and I'm looking at it alone. There's no one there, Sam, and I'm looking at it, and I'm feeling into it. I'm sending my heart resonance. I'm reading with my heart, which is what us humans are able to do. And all of a sudden, I'm aware of this something next to me, but it was so light. And it was so like a little fairy energy. And then I look, and it's Elena. She's standing next to me in this gigantic museum, thousands of square feet, different floors, different staircases. And all I saw at the corner of my eye was her little gold snake earring, these little earrings that she wears. And it glistened. That's why I turned. And then we look at each other, and we haven't seen each other since the conference.
Same time.
Yeah, and then we just started bawling, crying, and hugging each other.
Yeah.
And then it was so delightful, that resonance at that moment. And it was also, these moments with people that we're lucky enough to meet in our lives is a recording moment, a physical, emotional moment where we know that she and I were from a similar timeline, and definitely Samaria plays a part in that. For me, the Library of Nineveh, I'm very linked to that. I was probably the cleaning boy or the servant, you know, how people go, but I was the leader. I was the great goddess Wonkamonga. You know,
No,
what seems to happen to
No,
me? Like the
no,
person, you know, me, I'm like, how's a little Matt
No.
Field over the side of the road, you know. But anyway, my point is, with her, you mentioned her resonance, her, you know, her, what you yourself have felt, and you've interviewed her. Like, I'm just giving you another story of someone like her and the resonance of her. She's very, very different from the clairvoyant medium, of course, Sylvia Brown.
yeah,
But there are
Yes.
people that come and they leave a mark and they elevate people that choose to want to learn from something that they're sharing, right?
and she's using speech and language. And the speech and language is resonances. It's resonance you make with your vocal cords, a resonance with your ears, your eardrums. And so the resonances are basically subspace where there's not really anything there. It's like, 99.9999% empty space. So in that resonance is just the love of divine source, divine creator that's making stuff vibrate. So you're entangled with Elena. You could have had your eyes closed. You two would have come together there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt her. Well, very quickly, say about language. I was texting with her earlier and laughing because I ordered, she again, the work the woman does. She has just finished her encyclopedia
Yeah.
of galactic
Yeah.
being that she's drawn and coloured and used programs to help
Yeah.
create is beautiful. It's mind blowing. The work she does
Yeah.
is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And on Amazon, when I went to order it today, on Amazon, it says Mrs. Elena Danan, which is so funny to me. Mrs. The Mrs. thing is always funny to me. Because she calls me at times when she's online and she says my name, she'll say, and Mrs. Dani Anderson. That's all I hear. In my head. Because to me it's so silly and it's so funny. I mean, we were just talking earlier about, like, that's just so ridiculous. But language and languaging and someone's name or the way they say it or the way they say something, it lights you up on every level, doesn't it? Like the speech and the pathology of the language and the consciousness and the feeling. So this is a hard question for you to answer, I'm sure, but have a go. From all of your years of being this, working to a very senior level of language pathology, what do you see in humanity in terms of their raising of consciousness? And is there a particular way that you feel they've done that?
Well, that's not an easy question, but I've got an answer. Okay, so nobody trusts the media. Nobody trusts healthcare institutions. Nobody trusts the, quote, journalists. Nobody trusts anybody. And we're not going to whip out a bunch of baseball bats and guns and have a riot. So all that you and I can do is use our communication skills. Now, when the pandemic started, nobody knocked on my door and said, hey, you got to go get a shot. Everything came through the tube all at once here in Peru. Everybody got brainwashed, mind controlled by digital media, fear, and a couple other factors which I'll focus on. And what happened was it pushed people over the top now. So they're going, wait a second, my pilot got a vaccination? I don't know. I don't know if that's what I want. And so you can have a 60 IQ and you're going to go, I don't know, I don't think that's a good idea. So now we have a broader spectrum of people that don't trust the media. I trust you. I trust Elena. You guys are real. So when Dan says something and he's doing the Vogel crystal stuff, people are going, yeah. So when Elena, drops a new book and in 12 hours it's on the bestsellers list at Amazon, everybody's paying attention to this. So now the deep state manipulates people with digital, data banks, hypnotic suggestion, flicker rate, and behavior modification, and something called fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. So they can take an image and make you feel good, make you feel bad, make you feel nauseous, make you feel turned on, whatever they want. The same image. So they can take what you're broadcasting, we're all true, cool. I'm sitting there watching going, no, I don't think I like that. Just because stuff's subliminally embedded in it. Now, because you asked me the question, what's going to happen and what do I think is going to happen? People like yourself, females with a spine, are going to start kicking ass with media. And it could be something like a global constellation where people are not paying attention to the news. They're thinking more, how can I be cooperative, loving for the people around me, loving for myself, making things better, and going away from fear. And that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Now, United States, when I was in heaven, I asked, this gentleman, David, on the other side, what's going to happen? He said, this is 1996. He said, infrastructure is going to collapse. That's all he said. I'm not, infrastructure, what the fuck's infrastructure? He said, infrastructure is going to collapse and the governors are not going to be able to get food and water. So they're going to get together. They're going to start a new United States government with Jesse Ventura. And they're going to base it on the original Constitution, the original Bill of Rights, the original states' rights. And some states are going to be the old United States, and some states will become the new United States of America. So people aren't paying attention to media. They're going to try to sell Biden. Give me a break. Come on. So institutions like yourself that are using media, this is more powerful than a nuclear weapon because you're telling them the truth and you're motivated by unconditional love. Plus, you're a pretty package. It can't hurt. You know what I mean?
It's the light on Zoom that makes me look pretty in all of us. But you're right. The motivation or the frequency that's coming out, aside from passion and a real kind of sense of urgency to love, it really is unconditional love.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. It's not greed for control. And people don't get to that loving spot unless they've done the best they can for those who have the least. And that's the honest to God truth.
Yeah, that's true. I want to go back a stage and thank you for that. You layered that beautifully. And again, some people will get all of it and some people will just get a bit of it, and that's all right too, because that's all we can do. We're all in different stages of the journey. It doesn't mean we're at lower vibratory resonance.
No.
It just means that we information,
No.
absorption, when we get it, to make up our own minds. Now, you mentioned the fact that you went to heaven.
Yeah.
And that a light left your chest.
Yeah.
Now, go into a bit more. Sylvia set this up. There was a preparation.
Yes.
Sylvia Brown set this up.
Yeah.
Go into that, please.
She channeled Rahim that night about 2:30 in the morning. I got up to toilet. I'm walking back from the toilet. You know when you get a cramp in your calf just before it hits, you got this funny feeling in your calf? I had that exact feeling in my chest. And I'm in healthcare. I'm like, oh shit, what's this? So I was kind of frightened, frightened and alert. As I laid back on the bed, a light came this way across my chest. And it was a ring of light with a point in the middle. And it was hard as marble. And it looked like white smoke. And it came, this is the hard part. It came out of my chest to eternity and went into my chest to eternity, but it didn't come out my back. Now, I can understand something out there coming into me, but this came out of me. I watched it come out of me. I went to the other side. There was a gentleman in a column of light, and I could see a silhouette, and I asked him, I said, is this heaven? And he went. And I said, well, there must be a God. If there's a heaven, there's got to be a God, because my life's been hell. We're working with all kinds of injuries and stuff. And I said, if there's a God, why would God make a Hitler? Why would God make a Hitler? And he went, look over there. So as I'm turning to look over there, I feel the ground shaking. And it's the resonation of thousands of Nazis marching. and I look over to the right, and there's a review stand, and then in the middle is Hitler. And just thousands and thousands of the marching Nazis, the bayonets, and they're doing their thing. And then the guys around Hitler all spiffed up, fine outfits and everything. So when the troops get in front of Hitler, they would stop and they would put your seatbelt on. They would look at him and they'd go, "Heil Hitler!" And then they keep marching. And the people around Hitler would go, "Heil Hitler!" Just freak me out. And then Hitler's going like this. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like,
continue.
I'm like, what the hell? Then I look at this gentleman in the column of light, David, and he goes, look back over there. Hitler floats straight up in the air, floats straight out over the bayonets, and impales himself on the bayonets. And they march away with him on the bayonets. It's real. It's real. And I've seen video of people getting killed and stuff, but when you really see it, it's awful. And then the terrible part started, Dani. When they marched away with him, millions of people were screaming and crying and wailing. Gypsies and homosexuals and Jews, they were screaming and crying and wailing, saying, "We forgive you, Adolf, please stop." It was horrible. It was really, really horrible. Now I'm all screwed up. And I look back at this David, and he goes, Hitler's been doing that since he died. And that all of those gypsies and Jews and homosexuals, they had to wait a long time to incarnate so they could incarnate at the same time Hitler did, just so they could learn compassion and forgiveness. I'm like, oh. That's what happened.
Interesting. Just to share that, like the place that you mentioned, heaven, there is a place, I've been there myself.
Cool.
Whatever people want to. And so when you wake up inside of a dream, we can call it a lucid dream. And my test is I'll always pinch myself, and if it hurts, I'm awake, and if it doesn't, obviously I'm inside of a vision or a lucid dream, whatever you want to call it. So I'm having one of these. I was in I think I was about, how old was I? Like 32, 33. Not the first, and I had many over a lifetime.
Cool.
I'm suddenly aware I'm in this field, and I know I'm in heaven. I'm just in heaven. And I look down at the grass, and the grass is beautiful, long, beautiful, healthy grass, but the grass is making sound, and the sound is musical. And that's what told me I'm in this heavenly plane. And I'm walking along, and I walk over a bridge, and there's an old man and woman standing there that say hello to me, and I say hello to them. And I felt something, but I didn't know what it was I felt, so I didn't take my eyes off them, because I wanted to remember everything in this moment. I walk back over the bridge, and then I find myself literally catching myself coming back into my body, lying back into my body, my spirit coming back into my body. And I sat up, and I'm like, oh my God, who were they?
It really happened.
Too later.
That really happened.
It really happened. Right, but these are the markers for people as well. When we want to gauge and map our life, what's real and what isn't, these are the kinds of things that do happen where we can go, oh my God, that was so true. I go to my parents, my mum's sitting on the ground, on the floor in the living room. She's got this little red suitcase we've had all our lives. And she's going through all these black and white photos. And I look down, and there's a photograph of the couple that were in heaven. I'm like, oh my God, who were they? She went, well, they're my great-grandparents.
Yeah.
Which I never would have seen.
Yeah.
That's two generations.
No.
So again, it was a physical marker in real time here that lets me know that we collectively, us beautiful humans, have abilities beyond what we're told, and these are real.
Totally.
People like you out there.
Totally.
And testament to.
Totally.
So fun.
It's something you can't believe you have it, but you do.
But it doesn't mean that we're all going to be like the most famous person in the world.
No,
we're
no.
going to make $1 million out
No,
of
no.
career. That's just so nonsensical
No.
in this day and age. Like, it's truth time, confirming time, ignoring what the religious pundits say, especially ignoring those that say, have you read your Bible, but have you read your Bible? Have you read your Bible? Have you read your Bible? But you mean the manipulation? You mean the beautiful things that may have been true that we can't tell are true or not because so many men have bastardized and tried to control the masses? That gets us into one of your subjects, which is MK Ultra.
MK Ultra.
May you please enlighten us a little?
I'm working in a hospital and I'm doing a screening on an end-stage Parkinson's patient. He's in A bed. By the window is bed C. And I always assumed it was empty because the curtain was always closed. So I'm looking at this end-stage Parkinson's patient, and a very attractive, tall, slender nurse comes in. And she has a name tag, Canaris. And I'm, oh, okay, and okay, hi. So I asked her where she was from, and she said she was from Argentina. I'm like, oh. So I started asking her some questions. Now, Wilhelm Canaris was a double agent during World War II, and he probably escaped to South America. So that's why I'm asking this lady the questions. So, seabed, the curtain just flies back. Who the hell are you? It was Leo Jones. Why are you asking her those questions? I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't know, you know. So it turns out he is the technical guy for MK Ultra. Okay? Is Leo Jones, Fargo Countermeasure, Sabre Laboratories. They sold equipment only to the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the military, all the military, the federal government, the Secret Service, but not the FBI. The FBI had all their own equipment. And he was, quote, a manufacturer. So he wasn't a spy. He was very special about, you know, I just manufacture the stuff. And so that's wires and bugs and interceptors and cameras and all kinds of stuff like that. So Major George White was in charge of MK Ultra. He's the guy that gave Frank Olson the OD on the acid. So he had a Colonel Major White was based out of San Francisco. Major racist, man, that guy. Anyway, he just worked with organized crime and dosing people with LSD. And, you know, Grateful Dead were pretty popular then. And, you know, San Francisco was pretty exciting back then. So Leo was the gentleman who provided the equipment for the Nixon White House in the Oval Office, and also for the safe houses where they would hire ladies of the night to bring guys in, and then they would juice them with this LSD, and they would just do all kinds of strange stuff to them. And he'd work both sides. Major White worked both sides of the law because he would like shoot people and stuff. He's just not a good guy. So Leo was on a feeding tube, and he'd been in bed for a couple of years. And so after, you know, I talked to him, I go, why are you in this fucking feeding tube? Because the doctor said I can't eat. I said, bullshit. I can get you to eat. So I got him off the permanent feeding tube. His life changed. And then in that process, the nurse told him I channel guardian angels. And he's like, he's hardcore Catholic. So he's like, huh? You know? So he asked me to channel his guardian angel. You'll like this story. He asked me to channel his guardian angel. Men don't do that. And guys like him are like, no, man, this is the devil. They don't know what the fuck. So I go, okay, I'm not supposed to channel angels in the hospital. You know, screw it. So Daisy brings in Marcel Vogel, the crystal guy. He worked with Leo in the safe houses and with the CIA. You can understand that one, right? So, yeah, so now I knew Marcel as an altar boy. He'd come into the 6:30 Mass. He'd come to the front altar on his knees. Walk from the back of the church all on his knees. So, but I didn't know him for crystals or stuff. I just knew him as Mr. Vogel, right? So Leo asked Marcel, his eyes are like this, the address of the safe house in San Francisco as a test. So Marcel gave it to me and I gave it to Leo. So that just, Leo went, whoa, this is real. Because Catholics can hang with angels. You know, angels, yeah, they can, you know, the angels, you know, UFOs, I don't know, you know. So right away he asked me to help find a missing woman. which she was drowned underwater, wrapped in chains, and I brought him to the sailboat the guy was on. Daisy described the sailboat, right? You know, we went there, and the sheriff had just taken him off the boat and arrested him because he was drunk, and they were afraid he was going to start the boat on fire. And it turned out he's the guy that murdered the chick. So I worked with Leo basically with Western states police chiefs busting bad cops. Police chiefs hate bad cops because they get good cops killed. So that's what I did. And then I worked with Leo with the Vatican, a Vatican investigator. Kind of fucked him up big time, man. Whew, man, he ran out of there frightened to death. And then basically some private detectives and stuff, you know. All very interesting. And it's on video. My documentaries, you got Leo in there and, you know, Oakland homicide detective and the missing mother and stuff like that. Oh, back to that story. So I find the girl's shoes. I call the homicide detective. He shows up. He goes, yeah, this is the girl's shoes. I go, okay. So I'm thinking they're going to arrest me. You know, they're not going to believe I talk to angels. They're just going to bust me. They're just giving me more rope, you know, so I can get myself in more trouble. So after a couple of days, the parents flew out from North Carolina, maybe South Carolina. And they showed me, you know, I showed them where the shoes were underwater and this big piece of cement and blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking, well, they're going to arrest me now because, you know, there's nothing else they're going to find out. So I start to walk away and the mother calls me back. I got it on video. She calls me back and she said, we were on the Sally Jesse Raphael show in New York, and we had an FBI psychic named Dorothy Allison on. After the show, we walked off the stage. Dorothy Allison wrote 3 names. One of the names was Belle. She said, Belle's going to get involved and find evidence. So the woman from the stage called the Oakland homicide detective 3 o'clock California time. I called him at 3:30. Nobody tells me. I'm like, so she called me.
Yeah.
She told me that's what happened, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. You know, they didn't bust me.
That's amazing. And you are Sam Bell, for those that may not have received your name, Sam Bell. So
Yeah.
that's incredible. Let's go back a step here to Marcel Vogel.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned friend Dan Willis.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Willis is such a, gosh, I don't know what to say high enough about that beautiful man.
He's a great man. He's a great man.
A friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, and someone who's going to be speaking for the second year at our conference, and somebody who literally has continued the work of Marcel Vogel with crystals. He worked with Marcel Vogel. He adores that man so much. He's named his website and work with Marcel Vogel's name to continue the continuation. Because someone like Dan, same as Elena Danan, they don't take other people's work and plagiarize it. Mm-hmm. They bring it back. They nurture it. They continue it because they're here for the right reasons. And as you know, Dan Willis has been working with Elena Danan and off-planet Jen Halleredian, working with on and off-planet beings, which do exist, not in the fantasy minds of some people who are on LSD or off their face on drugs or wanting to make something happen that isn't of the light. And the energy, we're calling it frill, P-R-H-Y-L-L, frill, and it is created by using, the best way is with a Vogel crystals, the way that Marcel Vogel understood to cut certain crystals to create certain resonance when light is passed through. And then with copper and silver and ultrasonic turbulence, I guess, in a way, we're creating this beautiful free energy that literally a lot of RETs upstairs have these little units in their houses, how they live, and it creates all the energy they need for light, for heat, for whatever, which has obviously been repressed from us. So Dan Willis last year stood on stage and showed and shared with Kent Noonan and Chris Esson, these two beautiful men, how this is done. And this is for the world. This will not be patented. This will not be covered up. This will not be held. And trust me, I'm sure you're well aware, having had all these years of experience and seen all the fuckery that happens with idiots, and I mean idiots. They want to take this and they want to hold this and you've got to do this, and nobody anymore. We don't hold back anymore, Sandbell, do we? We don't hold back anymore. We put it out there. We don't allow people to patent stuff. We share. This is a time of sharing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you're coming down kind of hard on the bad guys. You know,
Who?
you, the bad guys.
Good.
I'm agreeing with you, but additionally, Elena is doing everything for unconditional love. Dan and you and I and many others are doing this for unconditional love. None of us are here to make money. It can't hurt, but we're not here to make money. So the reason we're so motivated now is because there's so many fucking assholes out there fucking everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, when they
Yeah,
did this,
they have been, but-
when they did this pandemic thing, they really crossed the line.
Yeah, and it's really quite beautiful because it really highlights how actually dumb and stupid they are. But the greatest thing as well, like, in terms of energetics and like
Yeah.
human consciousness,
Yeah.
something that you're really, in the pathology, the silent and the non-silent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is that the one energy that these retards that run the planet and run things, and I do mean retard, I do mean slow-brained, one-cell
Yeah,
amoeba,
yeah.
not our beautiful, lovely, but are brilliant, but are called retards. I mean the real ones, the neptards. And they can never know what we know. They can never feel passion, love. They can never energetically
No.
generate themselves or generate their own
No.
thrill in their bodies
Yeah, no.
that communicates with thoughts from words. It is impossible, which is why they try and keep us down, low vibratory resonance
Yeah.
and stuff. And we are full of it. And it's an ignition. Passion ignites a love in so many of us. And it can come off as overexcitable or mental or crazy. I don't care. I couldn't care. Pick one. All that matters to me is that we do elevate and we have risen our consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, you have been aware of that. You have noticed over the years how people are kind of getting themselves there.
Yeah. Yeah. When I met Sylvia, people, the psychic stuff was kind of fringy. And the term channeling really wasn't, people didn't know. But now, psychic stuff and channeling and, remote viewing and out of body and all this stuff, people are kind of like, all the ships are kind of elevating now. So when you put together your guests and share over this media, see, this is the same media that the deep state uses. So we're getting them with their own stuff, which is the best. And we're dealing with concepts. So this consciousness thing, people think, well, they die and it's over. It's not over. It's not over. You'll never be more dead than you are right this moment. So that your consciousness continues. And then when you get to the other side, they're not going to say, well, were you a Buddhist or Mormon? What were you? All anybody will talk about is, who did you love and how did you love them? That's the whole story.
That is the whole story. It really is. Yeah, it really is. It's so funny. I'm watching at the moment. I rarely watch anything, but I got my parents Netflix for Christmas, right? Just as a thing, because they're a lot older and they're, they're where they're at. It was a treat. And anyway, when I was a kid growing up, there was like Anne of Green Gables, this little girl, this little orphan girl. And she goes to live with a family, and it's about the life of how she kind of developed. She's got this great imagination, but she's come from such awful, awful trauma. And I forget why I'm telling you this, but I guess it's some kind of relevance because I feel guided to. Well, I started watching that today, and I wish I hadn't. And it's the sweetest thing in the world, but I could not stop crying. I've cried. I think I'm on the third episode right now, and I'm just bawling and bawling and bawling. And it's like the struggles of this little girl. She thinks she's so ugly, and she's got red hair and freckles, and that's supposed to mean something. And she's so traumatized, and they do little flashbacks to her in the orphanages and stuff. And it's so I don't know, emotive, and I completely forget why. Help me out here, because there was obviously a reason you created a link, a neural pathway for me then to share something relevant. I guess maybe it's the healing or the upliftment or the winning or the evolvement of like human consciousness.
Well, first, don't mix red wine and white wine. Just stick to one color wine for the evening, okay? Second thing is, in general, the more loving you are, the more difficult your life is and has been. Take our Lord, for example. How loving was he? So people might go, oh, Dani Henderson, no, she's so sweet. They don't know what you've been through. They don't know. Trust me, I understand. People like yourself, imagine the stuff Elena's been through. And Dan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another way.
That's nice. A lot of people think I'm a right bitch, which is fine too. You know, we get where we get. Or
It's
you know,
okay.
rattle their cage, but because something needs igniting for people to take action, right? In this time of ownership, self-ownership, you know, it's all about them just waking up to themselves and how powerful they are.
And it doesn't cost anything, and it's coming from inside of you, and it's eternal benefits. The consciousness that you're elevating for your viewers and the people that participate with what you're doing, the entire globe goes upwards. And the more people start dropping dead right and left, all this crazy stuff, the more people are going, wait a second, what's my life about? Why am I here? What's this Dani talking about? Because people are starting to tune in. They're really starting to tune in. Even though, you know, might say she's got, you know, somebody got so many views. Well, that's what somebody put in the computer. But when Amazon says Elena's bestseller in 12 hours, that's saying something.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Back to Sylvia for a second. May I talk about Sylvia for a second? When I went to work with Sylvia, what happened was she would go on the Montel Williams show, right? I think it was Montel Williams, Sylvia Brown Thursdays or something like that. Anyway, the first time she went on Montel, there was no advertising, okay? She just came on, right? Well, the people that sell commercials on television, they monitor who watches what and how much. More people tuned in to Sylvia that first time on Montel than the Academy Awards. And so that just really scared the crap out of Hollywood. Like, who in the hell is this woman? You know what I mean? No commercials. I mean, no advertising ahead of time. So the deep state's just scared to death of people like you and me and, you know, all these other people are out there spreading the truth because you're actually not faking it. You're actually doing what's coming out of your heart to chakra. You know, it's not necessarily brain stuff that's coming out from you. It's coming out your heart chakra. And those resonances are going right out your vocal cords. Like you were just going, Well, that's you're saying, yeah. Well, that's your vocal cords. They're making you retrieve those thought forms. You retrieve the thought forms in your mind by the pressure on the bottom of your vocal cords. So it's real. You're not acting. And you're not doing it for greed, for control. You're doing it because you're a loving person.
Which I believe the majority of people on our planet are, you know, loving, coming from a loving place.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about your spiritualmag.org. So when did you set up spiritualmag.org and what can we expect to find there?
Well, you're going to find a bunch of documentaries that I've produced with professionals, and it's real. So you'll see me interacting with a ghost, getting them to leave the building. You'll see me with an individual who's going to jump off a bridge. You'll see me working with the Oakland homicide detective, where he's talking to me and I'm telling him about it. It's kind of cool. He's a detective talking to angels. You'll see me with Leo Jones. And you'll see me with a gentleman he and I called in an orb thing from Orion at Black Rock in Peru. He said, we're going to go out there and call in a UFO. I'm like, okay, we'll find out. We went out into the dark, nowhere. Far side of the sugar cane, no electricity, nowhere, for miles. And he goes, okay, meditate now. So I buried my feet in the sand, I put my hands like that. I'm what's called a Gnostic Christian. So I started doing my Gnostic Christian prayer, blessed be the Father God and Mother God and blah, blah, blah. So I hear this dirt bike like maybe a mile away, going in circles. I'm like, what the hell's everybody here's poor. Nobody's gonna be riding a dirt bike in the middle of the night and waste gasoline in circles. It's just not gonna happen. So I'm kind of like disturbed now. I'm trying to meditate, and this damn motorcycle is not coming closer. It's not going further away. I look at Guillermo, who's next to me. He's making the sound with his body. It's not a sound that flesh and blood could make. It's some kind of mechanical sound, right? I'm like, what the hell? So he looks at me and he says, look at Orion. Now, I know onions. I don't know Orion. I don't know Orion. I know onions, you know. I look at him. I look up and I look at Regal, this little star at the bottom of Orion, and then suddenly it's in front of me. Okay? So I don't see it come from over there to here, but it was outside of time and space. And in my mind, I thought, how big is that? Now, when I made the t at the end, that's when my mind went blank. I don't remember anything after that. Till we get back a mile or so away back to the first light bulb. And I'm like, oh. And I asked him, what happened? He said, they already knew you. They said to call you Daliman. I'm like, oh, okay. So we went back to the table where my producer, cameraman, Jarrett was, and my wife, Blanca, and they were in a trance. They couldn't talk or anything. They were like, couldn't talk or anything. So that made things, that's the first real interaction I've had with off-planet stuff, because Sylvia's a Pleiadian. So from that point on, I'm like, well, I got to do more stuff trying to communicate with off-planet beings. So that's what I did. I made 3 shows doing that. And we met a guy, came out of nowhere at the exact right time. I'm doing I'm dowsing with a Vogue crystal. Where's the time? Where's the place? Guy shows up right there. We're like, whoa. So with that later, we'll do it again, right? Whoa, he's there again. But this time, we're at a place that, you see the stone circle behind me?
Yes.
That spot, 7,000 years old, is where Daisy brought me the second time. And that guy shows up there. And there's nothing around there. So we suspect, we're going to be visiting with him again, but we suspect he's just another person who's seated and is in that continuation of, consciousness, and he's in a physical mortal body. It's, it's not hard to grasp. They don't have to have, 3 eyes and wings and stuff. They can look like you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and many do. So let's go back here to the picture. Where is this, please? And where did you first see this man that appeared when you were basically focused on the area?
This place is Chilca, Chilca, in south of Lima. And quick story, my stepson's mother-in-law asked me if I could find her grandson. And he was missing in the mountains, about 9,000 foot elevation, and the Peruvian special forces were searching for him. They'd been doing it for a week, and she knows that I find people and stuff. So I went and helped find the guy, or what was the remainder of what was left. And so in the process of that, I learned that Chilca's right there where the river kind of goes into the ocean. So they said that Chilca's historic for UFOs. I go, well, good, let's go check it out. So we went there. No dowsing or anything, just went to the spot, and the lady goes, Junior wants to talk to you. We're like, Junior? Who's, nobody knows we're here. This guy shows up, Junior. He's in the video too. Very serious. He saw a UFO come down and 2 great big people come out up at the top of this mountain. There's 3 mountains. The 3rd mountain is where this thing is here, this stone thing. The first time we went to the first mountain, and the guy showed up, middle of the night, 4:44 in the morning, showed up. That's when he was supposed to show up.
Okay, let's specify. So you're there on the mountain, you're doing whatever you're doing, and a physical human being just turns up out of the darkness to your circle.
Yes, what I was doing was, my cameraman, Jarrett, went to India to a special event at a river that happens every 13 years. And he brought some of this water back from this event. And so I went and did a circle ceremony with this water to call in a off-planet being to help us elevate our consciousness. So I did the entire thing. Nothing happened. It was very cool. And then this guy just showed up in the dark. It was very cool. End of show 5. It's a six show series, and he's also in show 6. That's the second time I met him.
Okay, and it's the guy behind you. You're saying the guy in the picture.
That's
That guy
me.
looks like you from.
Yeah, that's me.
I thought that was you.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, so what's his name and what does he look like?
He is a little bit unusual looking in that the texture of his skin is kind of thick and creases. Okay, and he's dressed like a regular guy, right? And
How tall? What color?
he's maybe 5'9", 160 pounds. This is nowhere. This is absolutely nowhere. And he's born and raised in Chilca. Cool. So it's just very, very cool. And this is in the series. It's the show series. Series is called Bell and Tell series. Such excitement. So if it's okay, I will send you a Vimeo pass that's good to the end of March for you and all your viewers. You save $5 because it's free. Don't worry, but yeah.
Thank you. I'll make sure it goes underneath the broadcast, guys watching. The link to Vimeo, the free pass till the end of March, showing these documentaries and great footages that this wonderful man Sam Bell has recovered and filmed. Will be underneath this video. So we have to tell people sometimes because they go, "Where is it? Where is it?" Under the bloody video.
Yeah.
That's what everybody go down.
Yeah.
Which
So
is okay.
if we get a good response, we'll just keep it up there for free. Because the information we need to get the information out. And basically it's just to get people to go, guess what? There really are angels. And there really are beings that are here to help. And you might not be able to see them or feel them or hear them, but they'll give you messages telepathically. Especially if you meditate. Just meditate a little. It goes a long way, as you know.
So, in brief, can you tell us quickly, in brief, because for some people, I'm not a person that sits every day and oms.
Mm-hmm.
I don't om anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say amen, for obvious reasons. If anyone's been paying attention on this channel, they'll know why. But anyway, that aside, a lot of people aren't able to get themselves into a meditative state. It depends if they're able to, or they're very dyslexic, or their brain runs at 1,000 miles an hour like mine does or tends to.
Mm-hmm.
How would you suggest a quick way for people to get into a calm state, which is also known as meditation state?
Well, you don't have to try. What you need is a straight back chair. Put your feet flat on the floor. Tune out. Our Lord taught people to go into a closet. So if you need earplugs, just stick in some earplugs. Sit with your back straight, your palms up. I do a Gnostic prayer, which is blessed to Father God, Mother God, our Lord, archangels, angels, spirit guides, myself, and loved ones not present. And I enclose myself with a white light, just a big white light visualization, visualize above you, below you, in front of you, behind you, white light to the right of you, and all that's left of you. And you can even say it out loud. It's not that big a deal. And what happens is nothing happens. It actually is kind of hard to do it, but after you do it for about a year, just, sit down, 3 breaths, visualize the white light. Suddenly you kind of find a space that I can find this space when I'm in the grocery store waiting in line. I can find this space when I'm sitting in a stoplight, and just do it ever so briefly. And if you relax your body, you're allowing your mind to do what it's supposed to do. So your mind is designed for the sound of trees and birds and the wind and stuff like that. So in the digital age, we're completely bombarded. Also in the past, you learn what you were exposed to. So if somebody spoke Eskimo and somebody spoke Swahili, they couldn't really communicate unless they grew up in it. But if you grew up with a Swahili mom and a Eskimo dad, you could probably do both. So you learn what you're exposed to. So since the beginning of time, people were learning what they were exposed to. So you're normally exposed to brains. But now, nobody's exposed to brains. You're exposed to Google. So you've got things talking to you with digital, giving the thought forms they build into concepts, so that you're not getting something that's healthy necessarily. Especially if it's done when you're in a hypnotic state. And they use flicker rate. And they use fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. And just to comment on that really quickly, this is the thing where they put the mask on your head and you got all those little wires. So what they can do is they can go, okay, we can see what's going on inside Dani's brain. We can see what's going on inside your brain before you can only see the outside. If you walk down the grocery store and you picked up the coffee and you're reading it, they go, she's reading it, that's a good location. But now they can see what's going on inside your brains. And they can go, oh, that green package with the black ink, that's what's turning her on. Or they can go, oh, this color she hates. So what happens is, it's going into your brain, but it's below your consciousness. It's subliminal. So they can pick up the keys that are going into you that make you think, well, Trump's a racist. I hate him. Well, why do you hate him? He's a racist. Okay, what has he done that's racist? I can't think of anything, but I hate him. So fMRI is used through digital to manage and manipulate people. So they can go, well, we're going to show some pictures of some Chinese people falling down dead, and then we're going to do the fMRI to crank up people's max anxiety. And so people are like, I got to get a mask, I got to get the gloves out.
Yeah, Tara.
That's how it's done.
Frighten them. Mm-hmm.
It's under the term neuromarketing. So look up neuromarketing, and you can see how you can be easily manipulated with stuff you have no ideas going on. And what the government does is, the government's been doing this for a long time. So let's say you smoke Newports. They're in a green package. So you're addicted to nicotine with that green color. Well, they could put something with just a little fleck of green, and they can see with the neuroscience that, oh, that flick of green makes you love it. Or let's say you're a certain type of sports team and that color is just, you hate that team. Well, with the data banks that are out there, they can see who's watching what teams, and they can tell everything that's going on with the data banks. So they take the data banks, AI, like you go search, roast chicken in a pan, and then suddenly you got, 400 YouTubes of roast chicken in a pan. So that's all individualized. So what they can do is they can make something, say, we're just going to put this to South Central LA. So they just put it on there and they say, oh, look, we had more carjackings that night. We had murders that night more, or put something else on and this stuff goes down. So the government spreads out all this stuff individualized now. Before it would be like, you got to see what everybody else watches, but it's not that way anymore. So you're in the zone to make things better, is what I'm trying to say. In conclusion, what you're doing is probably the most important thing. Okay? Because if Elena did what you did, people wouldn't pay attention to her. You know what I mean? Because
we all have our role here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're a female. You're not a male. The males have fucked up everything for eons. So it's time for females to,
That is true.
Yeah, it's the most...
That is true.
You're the most underutilized resource on the planet is women. Nothing's going to get better unless the women step up.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, as well, the thing that makes me laugh out loud is, has everybody forgotten that we actually birthed the human race? Like, hello, who was given that responsibility? Not that it's so boring to make it between men and women, but what we are doing is we are bringing the balance back, because the men that have gone so far off through no fault of their own, and ultra programming, being turned against, this and that hurting.
Religions.
Mothers embrace right away, religions, all of that. You know, it is balance. Without balance, everything has to be, must be, is, and will be in balance. Everything unbalanced, everything extreme. You know, it can't. There's no place for it. It is. That's the manipulation. Without the balance, right?
Especially today with today's weapons. Also,
Yeah.
the religions, to a certain degree, are very effective because it stops the poor people from murdering the rich, greedy people. So there has been a long history of a female who shows up on the planet in all the different countries around the world. Sometimes it's in Mexico, it's in Lourdes, France, or whatever. And this female that shows up is Mother God. She actually cares. But it's kind of like, well, we don't want to, you know, there's Jesus on the cross. Hey, you pay attention to that, you know. So then they're not really pushing this female entity that just happens to show up in front of zillions of people and heals things and enlightens people. Well, that's Mother God. So she shows up a lot now, big time. So individuals like Elena, like yourself, Dan, myself, we're motivated in our own way with love frequencies, but she's a field of love frequencies. So she can provide a resonance for you that's different for me. Very, very powerful. Extremely powerful.
Yeah, indeed. And you know, it's interesting as well with the manipulation and the pathology of the manipulation on our planet. You know, as you and I are talking about balance and men and women, and then you make a statement like, well, the women, you know, are here to, you know, these are, we need that dominant energy to bring things into balance. And then I'm saying that obviously we birth the human race, and then there's this peppered in machine element of the mind control, which then sparks something in people to go, well, what about the men that want to be women but they haven't got wombs, and what about them? And then they can make something of it. It's so badly failed, but they've done that all of our lives, and the lives of our parents, the lives of our grandparents. This is over 100 years old. This mental warfare, you know, this attack on human.
Yeah.
You know, but we're at the point, you say, where we see it, we know it, we sense it.
Yeah.
It's like old women.
Yeah.
So now we're going, we're done, enough of this nonsense.
The fMRI right now is the biggest danger, but people don't know anything about it. Okay? An example, 9/11. You know what happened on 9/9? No. 9/10? No. 9/11? Well, 9/11 is the phone number in the United States if you have an emergency. So when 9/11 occurred, it happened on 9/11. Well, surprise, surprise. Also, trauma, when you're in trauma, stuff goes into your head, it gets tattooed on your brain. So when JFK was murdered, you know, they said who did it that day. When 9/11 happened, oh, it's bin Laden, it's bin Laden, it's bin Laden. So people in the media are used to control everyone who's watching media. The best thing you can do is turn off your TV.
Yeah.
Be selective.
Yeah. People are so addicted, though. It's a drug, you know, it's addictive. It's like me turning on watching that Anne of Green Gables. Like, I'm 3 episodes in. I've lost an hour and a half of my life. I'll never get back. But I'm so emotional because it's just so, you know, because I don't watch TV. And it's funny because you say, I don't watch TV. I haven't watched TV for years. Well, YouTube is the TV, so don't kid yourselves, guys.
Yeah.
And they know that. And YouTube is policed. The YouTube police, or the BoobTube police, as I like to call them, you know, they're policing everything. They're policing every conversation. You know, you talk about 9/11. I still cannot believe that humanity hasn't demanded that goes back on the table and that gets taken apart. And they think we are so stupid. They, the retards that put themselves in neptards, that the self-anointed, self-appointed, they've moved on, and they're like, humanity's so stupid. They just let us get away with it. They can't even question why did Building 7 fall down hours later. Nothing hit it.
Yeah.
It was the CIA building.
Yeah.
And now, like, every word we say, the algorithm picks up the bots, the Chinese bots, the whatever bots.
Yeah.
You know, that are getting our channels taken down. The abuse. And you know, people say, well, 2030 is when, you know, the WEF and the WHO and those evil, soulless ones that decide, they're not going to decide decide my life for me. They're not going to decide your, most of the people watching this, they're not going to decide our lives. But we have to bring awareness to the plan, you know, that's failing and failed.
Yeah.
Because people need a bloody nudge, like, wake up, dimwit. You know, 9/11 happened, and because you didn't question it, they are trying this. So there's something else around the corner, but they are really failing. They're corkscrewing downwards. And that's why so many of us know about it now, Samba.
More and more. More and more. Now, there's people that know that Building 7 wasn't touched, but it fell down. But they still feel that 9/11 was Osama bin Laden, because that's as far as it's going to go. So what happens is they something's not done just by accident. Everything's super planned. And once you tell a big lie, you got to keep substantiating that lie. So, for example, right now, there's a whole bunch of doctors and people that are going, we have an unusual number of deaths. The U.S. military had a 40% increase of unusual deaths because everybody got vaccinated. So people are starting to figure out something's going on, you know, especially if you're talking about death. And it's an intermittent, inconsistent. You don't really know, when's it going to happen to me? So
yeah,
what they...
careful again, because if we start talking on BoobTube, anything with the V word in it, they're like, oh my god, they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to kind of dance around like idiots,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and speak in stupid ways.
Yeah.
Be mindful there, because
So don't be sorry, sweetheart. So right now, if I say you hear something on the news, they're going to talk about the Wuhan leak. Okay, that's how they're going to refer to it. The Wuhan leak. So from now on, when you talk about it's the Wuhan leak, not the Wuhan catastrophe or the Wuhan deep state action. It's the Wuhan leak. So when you say leak, it's like, well, it just happened. You know, it's like you spilled some bleach on the ground or something. You know, it's like, no, not
well,
really.
I think it's even more simple than that, you know, and the dim-wittedness of the whole thing was, have we forgotten the very core of the beginning of the events of the last 4 years? At the very core, it was a man-made. It was made in a friggin' lab. What has tortured and maimed and slain?
Yeah.
It was made in a lab. Like, hello? And that's what I'm saying about 9/11.
Yeah.
I think we're so dumb, we're not going to question. We're just going to accept what's happening.
Yeah.
But if this was planned, it was funded. It was made. It was funded by people
Totally.
to make it.
Totally.
So, like, can we just ignore the last 4 years then and just go there to the point of origin, to the beginning, and take our brain back and our ability to think and not to get so caught up in, you know, I mean, I don't know one single person in a position of power on my planet in that regard that I trust or respect. Not one. And I mean it, not one of them. I'm all about, don't tell me who you are, show me who you are.
Yeah.
Show me.
Yeah. See, that's a different thing, because you're talking about an authentic, loving resonance coming out of your heart. You're not reading a script. So people that are listening to you are going, yeah, you know, that's right, yeah, you know. And that's, you know, you're not selling something. You're just telling them the truth, and you're applying it to the quality of their life today, the quality of the relationships they have with their loved ones, and how they treat themselves. And the planet's only going to get better if people elevate consciousness. It's not going to get better if people keep going with the flow, because in the beginning we were just people, and then we started getting calculators, and then we started getting computers, and then we thought, oh good, we can make, you know, AI our servant. Well, now you can go buy something that will move your mouse. If you're supposed to work from your home, you can buy a device that will move your mouse so that your boss can think you're at your desk. So now we're the servant of AI. We're the servant of AI. So that's only going to stop if people elevate their consciousness and start applying all this wonderful technology to helping one another. And people say, what's it like going to heaven? I say, the truest thing I can say is, when you help the least of those, you're doing heavenly stuff. I mean, people don't understand that, but that's the honest to God truth. You help the least of those, you just have no idea the brownie points you get on the other side for eternity. Seriously. You got a bunch of gold stars on your plaque, young lady.
Oh, I honestly don't care about that though. Again, I think if you do something to gain something, you probably shouldn't be doing that thing, unless you're, and again, I think one of the biggest lies in religion, we're told well, be good and be humble and do as you're told religiously in this life because all the things you're getting are afterlife. And I think, oh,
not now, later.
To that. All that's telling me is that I am manipulated my entire life. And I can't live my true life, my passion, because I've got to do what a religion tells me, because if I don't, I risk going to hell or purgatory or somewhere else.
Yeah, that's dogma. That's dogma. No. Besides,
absolutely, but again,
you're too hungry to get somebody to make you do something. Thank God.
Well, we're just inviting people to think, just to question and stuff, and the women, like you say, the women in particular, they're kind of rising up within themselves, and we've all had, I have had controlling partners that can't handle my gob or my passion, which I don't care. Which change doesn't stop me. But there are moments where with someone who doesn't want you to grow or evolve or to think, because it's a challenge for them. And they're not there yet. They're not ready yet. And so they act in ways that we view as controlling. But really, there's a vulnerability in all of us. In all of us. We don't need to be heavy-handed or aggressive or, we just need to be mindful and respectful of each other. But do not let someone, your priest, your vicar, your shirt-lifting cardinal, don't let anyone tell you what to do. We need to think for ourselves. There's no one in between a person and their God, a person and the spirit they love. There isn't. It's an illusion. Yeah. It's a controlled, Third Reich illusion.
The most common sin, and sin is just missing the mark. The most common sin is greed for control. I mean, you got $1 billion. You need more? Yeah, I need more. Really?
Yeah. Those idiots. It's like, oh, my gold coin's going to be worth more than yours. All the 5 most wealthiest men, let's say, they've got the Bitcoin, the XRM, the whatever. I don't care. Yeah. And they're all like, no, my coin's going to run the world. Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and my coin's going to run the world. Oh my God! So it gets to their level of having more wealth than it is to me. The wealthier you are, the more you appall me, because you have the power to help those with less. You have the power to be the good guy, to be seen, to gain a modicum of respect, to help people starving, but you choose not to. And there's enough money on my planet, on your planet, on our planet, to put everything right. Yeah. Right? But there's a choice not to reduce as many people as they can, to withdraw as many people as they can. But it's not, of course, we know that.
Something that's kind of unusual is I'm from Silicon Valley. So I'm familiar with some people that have been very lucky and at the right place and at the right time, and they're very well situated now. And they're not really happy. So they do something like go to the Amazon and have this ayahuasca experience. Then they come out and they're like, Mother God, Mother Nature. It's like, wow, check that out. They go in one way and then they come out like, super cool. So stuff is happening for the male population. It's not a lot, but it just takes a couple of movers and shakers. Elon, for example, can, Silicon Valley is a big deal on the globe. So it's all male dominated. So if Silicon Valley kind of just elevates a little bit, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. That's why what I'm doing in making documentaries of paranormal stuff, and what you're doing in getting it out there to people, it's a really, really threatening to the deep state. Don't change.
Oh no, absolutely not. No. No, we have to, well, I think whatever we do in our life, do it because we love it,
Totally.
And, do it because you can't do anything else. There's nothing else. You're so driven, you're so in need to share. But share honestly, and if you do call someone out by name, which I have done, you better know how cruel that is, how unkind, how actually I think it's quite wicked to mention someone's name in a negative way. So if anyone does it, myself included, then I better be damn 100%, be on 100% clear and sure of my facts. Because the energy we put out in criticizing someone or something comes back to us tenfold, as you know, like a boomerang. So we'll be very, very careful, but have the courage, take the courage, and be able to stand by your facts.
That's the hard part. The courage part. That's the hard part. That's in healthcare. So many physicians were doing something they knew was wrong. What the hell? What the hell? Are you willing to lose your home? Yeah. Get a new occupation? Yeah, I'm willing to do that rather than inject some baby with something that's going to mess them up. Come on. So, but if you don't have the courage, you're going to be manipulated.
I know, it's really sad. I would really like to go more into that situation because obviously you've come from so many layers and levels of that industry, but every time I bring it up, I get a strike on my channel or worse. So we'd have to jump across to Rumble. Maybe that'll be our next conversation where we don't feel we have to be censored at all in any way, and we just talk like that on Rumble, which is probably a good thing to do. I cannot believe how much time has passed. I'm like looking at the clock thinking, no, it's been an hour. No, it actually hasn't. It's been a lot longer than that. So let's bring this conversation to an end for this time without saying anything that's going to get shut down. It's probably too late.
It's too late, Peaches.
What message would you like to leave?
Just that
What message would you like to?
consciousness is a continuum. It doesn't stop when you leave your body. You need to work on it now so that you can move forwards and upwards and resonate to greater amplitudes of unconditional love. Now, men are different than women. Women can be more loving, I think. So, ladies, be respectful and be patient with the men, okay? Please, be patient. And Dani and you and Elena and Dan Willis, of course, are always in my prayers.
Wow. Thank you, Sam. Sam Bell, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Thank you for being someone else out there who's done a lot of work on the pathology of speech and language and consciousness and understanding of that. Thank you for sharing your paranormal connections and some of the real things that have happened to you that you've documented. Thank you for sharing another insight into the great lady, Sylvia Brown, the great clairvoyant medium, because a lot of people have always had a fascination for her, as I have, knew nothing of this, and your journey to reconnecting with her is really quite fascinating.
Yes. Also, the series of 6 videos is free for you and your viewers to the end of March.
Lovely, lovely. And what is the name of that video series on Vimeo, please?
Bell and Tell series.
The Bell and Tell series.
Yeah, Bell and Tell series. It's actual documentaries of cool stuff. Okay, sweetheart. You and all your loved ones are always in my prayers. Keep out of trouble.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But thank you so much, Sam Bell.
Okay. Don't mix the red wine and the white wine.
Well, I rarely touch either, so thank you so much. And to you guys out there watching, thank you so much for being here and being part, at least listening to this conversation. I hope that Sam and I have inspired you in some way and that you will take up his kind offer of going to Vimeo with a free link below this video and watching the Bell and Tell series of paranormal adventures. Thank you. Until the next time, I send you my love and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.
Oh my God, I think we were on for like nearly 2 hours, Sam. And
Good.
Jesus.
Good. So you can make a video that's clean, and then a video for that other one, that one you can swear on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just going to put the whole thing out probably. Because, I just, I don't want to do anything that's going to, but I can't live in that perpetual
I know.
fear of every single thing.
I know.
Tell you
I know.
a couple of times that, it's going to be what it's going to be, so.
Yeah. Okay, good looking. Keep out of trouble. Can you send me a copy of this?
Yes.
Cool.
So what's your email address?
I'm sorry?
What's your email address?
Avatar Sam Bell at gmail.com. AVATAR Sam Bell, BELL, at gmail.com.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff I didn't talk about, this kind of stuff that really turn you on. So next time, so you know
Like what?
my uncle was the
Like
host of,
what?
my uncle was the host of the Today Show. He was murdered the day before he was going to talk about his experience in Dallas the day JFK was assassinated.
Fuck.
And then
Okay.
and then GE bought NBC News, and then all the people joined the Screen Actors Guild. So Frank worked with Martin Luther King and blacks and promoting that whole thing. And you know who Walter Cronkite is? No.
Yeah.
Well, Walter Cronkite credited Uncle Frank for ending the Vietnam War, because Uncle Frank brought it on the Today Show every morning with the death count. And then 1968, there was a Democratic convention in Chicago where they had 7 days of riots about Vietnam. And my uncle was the lead journalist inside the convention, so he told the cameras to go outside. And that's where they came, the whole world was watching. So he got on Nixon's hit list. Nixon
Okay.
was Fargo recipient. So when he ordered the Watergate break-in guys, they sent him to Leo at Fargo to learn how to break into this place. And Leo trained them, and then they didn't want to pay him to buy the special equipment to monitor the police radios. So they got caught.
So was your uncle Frank Bell?
My uncle was Frank McGee, NBC News. I will send you some of his clips, okay?
Okay, well, let's have a think about this, because what I think we should do is, the video that we just did should probably go on Rumble,
Yeah.
but no one's going to know about it. So what we should do is end this one and then come straight back in, so I can do a little this is Frank, this is Sam, and we're going to go across to Rumble, my channel there, but
Okay.
at least they know that there's something to watch.
Okay.
Because then that way, otherwise, because this is such highly sensitive information,
Yeah.
is that you're going to be a target straight away. And so, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. I already had a title written out for this one. Okay. All right. So let's go out and then come straight back in, and we'll just do like a 2-minute intro to people that will go on YouTube, but then I'll guide them over to my Rumble channel.
Okay, so my thing's in Spanish here. I don't have my producer here. So can you send me another thing that
It's the same one.
Okay, so
Yeah, just this.
so we'll just stay right here then. Is that it?
Yeah, you could. Stay there. Yeah, stay there.
Okay.
Stay there. I'll see you. I've got to come out so we can convert this first one. I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll be right here. All right. Oh, good. Oh, thank God.
Hey, good, excellent. You all right?
Yeah, I'm sure lucky I got here because everything's in Spanish.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Bless you. Yeah, it's when it's the Spanish though, isn't it? Okay. Tell me if you can read this. This is Dani, spiritual therapist 22, because that's my Rumble name.
Okay.
So I thought I'd write it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dani, spiritual therapist
22.
22. Okay, because I'm recording on this. Okay. So what do you want me to do with that? Just know that that's how to get to it?
Yeah, I just wanted to check with you that you could read it because that means other people can read it too. So we'll just do a really quick intro here, and this
Okay.
is what we'll put on YouTube. The rest of it, the other broadcasts that we already did, will go on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long do you want to take?
All right.
40 seconds, a minute, 90 seconds?
Yeah, a minute. Just
Okay.
a minute. Let me
Okay.
just say. Let me get this ready. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, just hang on a second. So right now my record button is missing. This happens a lot, mate. Let me just see if I can move a couple of things around. There it is. Okay. Okay. Here we go. You 3, 2, 1.
Recording in progress.
Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson. Welcome back to my beautiful channel. The man on the screen beside me is the great Sam Bell. Hello, Sam Bell.
Hello, Miss Henderson.
Sam Bell and I just had a great conversation over an hour and a half on his work as a speech and linguistic pathologist for many, many years, which is largely aimed at elevating consciousness. During that conversation, we covered your magazine. Can you tell us what it's called, please?
Spiritualmag.org. It contains a lot of important information. A lot of it's not really for the public because it'll get us into trouble.
Because of the policing of platforms such as BoobTube and the losers that run it, we have to put that broadcast that we just took together on Rumble. So here's my Rumble channel, everyone.
Don't tell anybody it's on Rumble.
So it's Dani Spiritual Therapist 22.
What is
No
it?
gaps.
One more time.
Dani, D-A-N-I, Spiritual Therapist 22. So when you go across to my Rumble channel, there'll be a free, nice, relaxed, easy conversation between Sam Bell and myself, which is going to include the time that Sam went to heaven. It's also going to include Sam's relationship with the great late psychic medium Sylvia
Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah.
Also going to include some of our conversations of the last several years and the happenings. And it's also going to include a little information on your beautiful guardian angel, whose name is
Daisy. Now
We'll also include
the information will be delicate and a little bit dangerous. So don't go there unless you're a grown-up.
Put your big boy and big dog hats on, everybody. We're hearing about Archangel Daisy. Daisy. And also, the image behind you is where you connected to an area of Orion and were then blessed with meeting somebody of a off-planet nature, would you say?
Yeah, we this spot here is 7,000 years old, and it's famous. It's Choco, Peru. It's famous for UFOs. And Daisy brought me there with some sacred water. We did a water ceremony with a circle twice, and twice this unusual gentleman showed up. And you'll see him in the video series that will be free to the end of the month on Dani's channel there. A connection.
Exactly. And we'll give more information on that on my Rumble channel, but right here on BoobTube, it is called the Bell and Tell documentary series, and we are giving you a code underneath right here, just down there a bit, to let you interview me for free to view Mr. Sam Bell's paranormal docu-series. Alrighty?
Perfect.
Alright, Sam, did we cover the main topics without upsetting the policed areas of this channel? Balls is what we say, balls.
Yeah, no.
Balls, and thank goodness.
Yeah.
Lovely Rumble. We love Rumble.
Yeah.
Stay humble, Rumble.
Stay-
Even though Rumble's most likely bought out like everybody else, you know. Stay humble, Rumble. You've got sold your souls already. But anyway, for now we'll pretend you haven't, and we'll put our hour and a bit long broadcast on there.
So-
Bagels and jelly beans. Great Sam Bell.
We'll see you on Rumble.
Indeed. And remember, guys, it is Dani, Spiritual Therapist 22. Dani, Spiritual Therapist 22.
Perfect.
On Humble.
Perfect. Okay, sweetheart.
Next time.
We did it.
Thank you so much. We did it. Okay. Bye, guys.
Go to Rumble.
Recording stopped.
There
Good.
you go. Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well done. I'm glad we didn't mention Wuhan or anything, because
Yeah.
they're just so hot on it.
Yeah, no.
My intuition was on it,
Yeah.
like
No.
roaring at me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it onto Rumble. I will then, how do I do this? Oh yeah, I can drop it's already converted, so I can drop that straight into WeTransfer. Okay, so I'll get it to you in the next couple of hours. If
Okay,
you haven't heard from me or it happened to you, just message me in Messenger on Facebook.
I'm
Okay,
gonna,
what time is it where you on?
it's 12:11. I'm gonna message you the connection to the Vimeos.
Great.
And he's already written it out, so you can just kind of cut and paste, I guess, or something like that.
Great, great. And
Okay.
if there's a certain photo you'd like me to use, then send that over as well.
Okay? Okay, good looking. Keep out of trouble.
That's not going to happen.
Good, good.
All right. Good talking to you, Sam.
Okay, bye, sweetheart.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.